Hi, I'm Donald McIntyre, founder of Etherplan, and in this video I am going to make comments on ETC Cooperative Funding development on Ethereum Classic. Um, on December 22nd, the ETC Co-op announced that they were going to now be funding CoreGeth development. Before they were funding Hyperledger Besu client. And now they hired the two developers doing maintaining CoreGeth. So that means that the ETC cooperative now has all the development is they are funding all the development in Ethereum Classic, which impacts the Ethereum Classic protocol. So that's the announcement, and these are my comments about it. The ETC co-op has proven to be a community-focused entity. For example, they rejected IOHK's Treasury proposal. That was not very good for Ethereum Classic. It was not good for trust minimization. It didn't fit the principles of Ethereum Classic. So that shows that, and the main reason that Bob Somerville, the executive director of the ETC co-op, the reason that he said that he was rejecting it, which was the final blow to that proposal, was because it didn't fit the community's philosophy. So the fact that now the ETC cooperative is the only entity funding development is not a threat. I don't see that as a threat for Ethereum Classic. Regarding the Treasury, they do think these are the differences in opinions and philosophies that we have, and create debates in the community. They do think that the ETC does need a treasury to fund long-term infrastructure and protocol development and research and maintenance, also in case of bugs, etc. So they're going to do another proposal, and we're going to debate it in the community and see what happens. But these differences in philosophy are normal. They happen in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, in Zcash, in all the major blockchains. It is healthy, and it's part of how the social layer works. The other good thing is that it has over $4 million to fund development and key infrastructure. This is because Grayscale, who's the one donating to the ETC co-op, donates 1/3 of the fees they charge for their Ethereum Classic fund. It's a closed-end fund. And because Ethereum Classic has gone up a lot this year, like 8 times, or 5x or 6x this year, then those fees increase significantly. And through 2021, the revenues of the ETC cooperative increased a lot. So now they have a fund, $4 million, and I think I estimate, according to their past reports, that this fund could help them finance client development and the other projects that they finance, which are key infrastructure, for 3 or 4 years, I think. So this is also very good news. So now they have CoreGeth client, Hyperledger Besu client. CoreGeth has like 90% or 95%. Hyperledger Besu has like 4%, something like that. And they have a project to integrate another client, which is very good. It's called Aragon. It was called before TurboGeth, and it's a team that basically for Ethereum 1, they created a client that is much more efficient for people to sync into the network for the first time. I saw on their website that the promise is that people can sync in 48 hours. And also the storage, the local storage in your machine, if you want to run a node, it's much more efficient. So it must be smaller. So it must be, they must have restructured the database so it contains the same information, but in a smaller container, say. So some people said that it may come some security trade-offs. So I guess that's going to be analyzed and debated in the community, whether the effort to integrate Aragon, I think, is a good idea, provided that it doesn't have those trade-offs. On the other hand, this is not a change of protocol. This is just another client running the protocol of ETC. So ETC continues to be equally secure and fully replicated and with proof of work and the same fixed monetary policy, and all the guarantees are the same. Code is law and immutability. It's just a client that it's efficient itself, more efficient itself. So node operators, miners, and any entity or person who wants to run a node, they can choose whether to use this client or the other. And whoever has problems with syncing or with local storage may opt to use Aragon, even with those potential security trade-offs. Aragon is excellent then for managing the bloat problem. So what does it mean? Why did the ETC cooperative assume the responsibility of funding the largest client in Ethereum Classic? No, this is because IOHK was rejected with their Treasury proposal, and IOHK, well, we already spoke about those things in other videos and interviews I gave. It was a very bad proposal. It sucked too much money from at the protocol layer, from the network, from miners, 20% tax on everything, and it was perpetual. And IOHK had no problem that they were going to receive hundreds of millions or billions of dollars for very little, comparatively, for very little contribution to Ethereum Classic, because to maintain a client is something with a large team, is something that costs only $3 million a year. So it didn't make any sense. And IOHK has always had a very different philosophy than Ethereum Classic, to the point that they built and created and launched Cardano, which is a proof of stake blockchain, which is insecure as a consensus mechanism, and sharding, and is going to have a treasury, and is going to have a governance system, which is basically to create a new bank but on the blockchain. It's they never had, they were never aligned as the ETC co-op with ETC philosophy. ETC Labs was also this also means that ETC Labs, who were funding development until the end of 2021 of Core Geth, that had 90% share in Ethereum Classic, left ETC. The reason they left ETC, first as IOHK, ETC Labs was also an attacker. The way they came into ETC, the ETC development team was one at the time in 2018. It was ETC Dev. I worked there. We were 12 developers and a designer, and me as a business developer. We were 14 people, and suddenly ETC Labs decided that they wanted to poach the developers of ETC Dev, and they kicked out ETC Dev. They tricked the ETC Dev leader at the time, Igor Artamanov, to give them the admin access to the ETC Core Geth and the Ethereum Classic community GitHub repository. And when they got access, they kicked everybody out and they took over the repository on GitHub. So they were, and then they extorted the community, saying, okay, we will open it again and give it back to the community under these conditions. And one condition was to create a foundation with a board of directors where they would control the whole thing, like in Zcash or in Ethereum, that they have foundations controlling everything, or Cardano and Polkadot, or they all have foundations. ETC is a completely decentralized community, it's a completely decentralized blockchain. So those things are not admissible. So they were rejected, and they always had bad ideas. So they were attacked just like RHK anyway. The other issue with them leaving is that it would happen anyway, as it happens in any other blockchain development. What we need to understand is that decentralization is not only mining decentralization, or only development decentralization, or only node operators or the node market decentralization. Decentralization is to have all these different parts in the blockchain, like miners on one side, developers on the other side, node operators on the other side. Then you have dApp developers, and then you have the core community, the ETC army, and then you have investors. That's what creates decentralization. But within each of one of those compartments, normal economies of scale occur anyway. So there's always going to be, within the world of investors, there's always going to be a few billionaires or trillionaires who own the most. And then all the rest of the population of the world, each individually, everybody's going to own less. There's always going to be large node operators like Binance and Coinbase and Kraken and the big exchanges in the world that run their own ETC clients. And those are the biggest ones. So they are the most influential ones as well, in terms of giving their opinions about future development and future protocol changes, etc. And the same happens in mining. When you see Ethereum Classic mining, Ethereum 1.0 mining, Bitcoin mining, etc., you're always going to see that there's 4 or 5 big mining pools with around 20% each. And then you have all the rest of the miners are smaller entities. And that's typical in economics, in physics. It's called power law. And in any single activity or physical phenomena, very frequently you have this thing where few players have 20% of the share, or 20% of the players have 80% of the share, and 80% of the rest of the players have a smaller share, the rest of the share. So that is, and so I think that even if IOHK and ETC Labs were digamos, positive for the community, non-attackers, there's never space for so many companies funding development, and the same happens. You can see this in Bitcoin. There's only one very large client that 90% of the people use. So the developers of that client, which are 5 or 10 developers funded by corporations, etc., they are in a way, they control the future development and the roadmap, or they are the main people, the first people to propose the roadmap, and then they see what the miners think and what the node operators think, dApp developers, layer 2 system developers like RSK and Lightning Network, all those constituents of the ecosystem, they have a say. And when there's a strong debate, it can even go into a war, like it happened with the block size war in Bitcoin in 2017. Ethereum also has only 2 clients. I think one has like 60%, the other one has 35%, and then all the others vary. So there's 2 teams managing those 2 clients. Zcash as well, I think like 100% is one client and one single team managing that client. So it was happening. It was something that was going. The fact that there were 3 developer teams with 3 clients, and now there's one, is something that would happen anyway, just because of how economics, physics works. So this is my opinion about the ETC Cooperative Funding development. And to know more about Ethereum Classic, please go to etherplan.com. Thank you very much.